Serendipity on a rainy Saturday, a pair of cheap black gloves and more reader tales of New York City in this week's Metropolitan Diary. Dear Diary, it was late afternoon on a rainy Saturday, and I had dashed out to do a few errands. Making my way along Nassau Street, I put my hand in my pocket and found an envelope I had forgotten to mail. I looked around for a mailbox, hoping to find one that still had pickup that day. Just then, I saw a mail carrier coming toward me pushing her bag. I smiled at her, envelope in hand. She grinned, nodded and extended her hand. My envelope was on its way. Dear Diary, when I was 17, I spent the winter running errands for a director at La Mama on East 4th Street. I was born in New York City but had grown up states away, and I never felt like less of a New Yorker than the year I moved back. Would you run out to Duane Reade to get the rest of this list? The director asked one afternoon as we folded programs near a paraffin heater. Sure thing, I said. But what is Duane Reade? She laughed as I put on my coat. You don't have gloves, she said. Here, take mine. They were perfect, cheap and stretchy and plain black. They were kind of gloves you would buy if you forgot your own better ones at home, the kind you lend to a stranger. I wore those gloves all February, until someone else needed them and I gave them away. Almost 10 years later, I was working 20 blocks north as an editorial assistant in the Flatiron district. My boss rolled into the office one day wearing a scarf I had never seen before. It suited him. Someone gave it to me on the street, he said. I must have looked cold, because at the next crosswalk, someone gave me these. He held out his hands. He was wearing those same cheap, stretchy, black gloves. Dear Diary, I was on the High Line when an older couple approached me. They asked whether I knew how to get to Greenwich Village. I pointed them toward the entrance that was closest to where they wanted to go. They thanked me. Are you from here? They asked. No, I said. We are, they exclaimed. Dear Diary, in January 1958 I moved to New York from Davenport, Iowa. I was 23 and starting a new job in the marketing department at Look magazine. I had no place to live. My father had advised me to take a cab from LaGuardia into Manhattan and to ask the driver to take me to an apartment building off Broadway where I could get a temporary residence on a week-to-week basis. I did exactly as my father had suggested, and during the ride from the airport I told the cab driver all about my life and how excited I was to be coming to live in New York. 10 years later, I was living in Detroit with my wife and 2 children and managing the Look sales office there when I came to New York for a business meeting. After the meeting ended and it was time to return home, I got a cab at 51st Street and Madison to take me to the airport. Halfway there, the cab driver pulled to the side of road and turned around. I know you, he said. You're from Iowa and you work for Look magazine. We had a great chat, and when we got to the airport, I have him a $5 tip. It was a lot at the time. Dear Diary, it was the usual weekend delay at the Grand Street station. When the B train finally arrived, riders packed in, scrambling for something, anything, to hold on to. A woman wearing glasses lost her balance when the train jerked abruptly. She tipped backward into the back of a man facing away from her. The man turned and hit her in the face. Her glasses soared into the air. He cursed at her before quickly moving away. Everyone in the car was stunned into silence. The woman gathered herself. Has anyone seen my glasses? She asked. I need them to see. Everyone's eyes shot around the car. A young woman next to me got down on her knees. I shined my phone flashlight under the seats. Someone yelled out that they'd found the glasses. You're bleeding, someone else said to the woman. We all mobilized again. An older man fished a tissue out of his pocket. A younger man turned his backpack inside out and pulled out 2 bandages.